Everyone is here has a different culture, different styles and different desires.
I have a lot of free time after classes. I usually enjoy it with my friends or going to library to finish my assignment, to work on homework, or probably just read because development is nice.
First of all, I have chosen Braemar because it provides a system which is called Fast Track. So I'm able to finish the school during 2 years. I will finish 3 grades during 2 years, which is really great. It motivates me.
This is a place where your ideas can take you somewhere. This is a place where there are opportunities for you to stand out.
My goal is to go to university in Toronto.
I want to go into the university and study the course of my dreams, software engineering.
So I'm planning to go to York University in Toronto, and I'm also planning to go to medical school after, either in Canada or maybe US. We'll see.
I'm planning to attend university, medical school, or just biomedicine related subjects.
Apply my knowledge, my in-class knowledge, to something in the real world.
I mean, I didn't even expect it to be as good as it turned out to be because I felt really calm. Usually I feel nervous when it comes to getting new experience or meeting new people, but this school made me feel like I belonged here.
Braemar College has award-winning students, award-winning teachers, and is an award-winning school. At Braemar College, we offer unique pathway scholarships, so we connect our students with our 4 pathway partners: Waterloo, U of T, Ryerson, and York.
The University of Toronto is one of the most prestigious institutions in the world, consistently ranked #1 in Canada and top 20 in the world. The University of Toronto's graduates are well received by the world's top corporations. In fact, a University of Toronto degree is portable no matter which country you would like to work in. The University of Toronto has many scholarship programs available. In fact, one of our scholarship programs includes a scholarship specifically for Braemar College.
Come study at Braemar College. I love Braemar College.
I'm Mike Helsby, and I'm the Director of Student Experience at Braemar.
I think you can start.
Perfect.
Good morning, everyone. I assume it's about time for us to begin.
Morning.
Morning. Good morning. Just want to make sure that everybody can see my screen clearly enough.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Well, to those who have joined us, a very good morning to you, perhaps good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you are joining us in the world. My name is Mr. Mike Helsby, and I am the Director of Student Experience at Braemar College. If you've been with us for a few minutes now, you've seen a little bit of a taste of what student life is like at Braemar College, and hopefully one of the things you saw emphasized over and over again by our students is that we try to respond to student needs through avenues of belonging, by understanding the situation of students, especially international students studying at this difficult time, and by always keeping our aim on the idea of providing a space of belonging. We try to address student health and well-being in every phase of our programming. And today, with our first ever Mindful Braemar session, we attempt to once again do exactly that. Mindful Braemar will provide you strategies for study at home, especially aimed at students who are spending long hours in front of a computer screen, working hard to complete their secondary educations. We recognize the unique difficulties of this particular situation, and Mindful Braemar is just another resource we attempt to provide to help you work through these challenges. We start with a few questions, and these are questions that come directly out of our own students' experience here at Braemar. Are you somebody who is perhaps feeling more stress these days than usual? Or perhaps you're worried that during the COVID lockdown, isolation is hurting your health. Isolation, being away from friends and family who we would otherwise see regularly. And lastly, perhaps a question that's relevant at all times in our lives, but especially so in these times. Do you want to improve your lifestyle? Do you feel like there is room for improvement? If you answered yes to any of those questions, then of course, you have come to the right place. Welcome to Mindful Braemar Session 1. Our plan for the next 4 weeks during these sessions, starting today, we will introduce the idea and concept of mental health, as well as some very basic mindful strategies to help you improve and maintain your mental health. Next week, on February the 14th, we're going to understand the idea of defense mechanisms. These are subconscious instincts that all people have, including you and me. And we're going to learn a technique called fear setting, which isn't nearly as scary as it sounds. This is something that we use as a strategy to overcome defense mechanisms that we do not want in our lives. The week following that, not on February 21st, but rather on Tuesday, February 22nd, we're going to start looking at another technique, good for mental health, but also especially good for productivity, and that's called SMART goal setting. We'll discover very quickly that SMART is an acronym that stands for 5 different ideas, but I'll save that for week 3. And lastly, our final week on the 28th of February, we're going to bring all of these ideas together and discuss how might you use some of them, the ones that you have enjoyed and found most effective, to build your own personal practice wherever you are, again, to improve and maintain your mental health. So that's our plan. Now, what will you be able to do with some of this information if you are to stay with us for this 4 weeks? Well, firstly, you're going to be able to understand very clearly what causes stress, insecurity, and depression in your day-to-day life. Now, these are risks that are in all of our lives. They are not something that is exclusive to you or perhaps exclusive to those in your life. We all have to deal with the possibility of these situations. And we, of course, want to know what strategies best approach them. So we're going to give you access to a range of strategies and techniques to improve not just your mental health, but your overall health, including your physical health. Even today, we're going to begin practicing something called mindful attention and see how we can do this in different parts of our lives. Around week 3, we're going to start creating schedules of easy, relevant, and effective health activities. We'll see how they can easily fit into our lives, no matter how busy we are, and what sort of results they will have. We're also going to discuss ways to overcome the obstacles that keep us from personal development, both short-term and long-term. And finally, that will lead into, in our final week, planning a specific route towards a fulfilling future that is authentic to you, not a future that is chosen for you or shown to you on social media or on television or handed to you by a teacher, but rather a future that comes out of recognition of who you are as an individual and how you can best contribute and participate in this life. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into a few very basic questions to lay the foundation for all of our learning in Mindful Braemar. First question, very simple. We want to understand what is mental health, this growing field of study. Secondly, a continuation of that first, what puts your mental health at risk? Can we recognize the forces in our life that may represent risk for us? Now, of course, the main strategy that we are going to promote with Mindful Braemar for dealing with the risks to mental health is mindfulness. We're going to spend some time today understanding exactly what mindfulness is. We want to understand how can it help? What's the point of knowing what it is if we don't know how it works in our lives? And then we are going to spend a few minutes at the end of today's session practicing it. For some of you, this is going to be a very common practice, something that you've probably done throughout your life. For others, this may be maybe a first time attempting to be mindful. We look forward to embracing that challenge together later today. So, as promised, that first question, what exactly is mental health? You may be very familiar with the idea of physical health, recognizing that it has to do with a combination of the body's abilities and the body's sensations, both the sensation of pleasure and the ability to enjoy the body, but also freedom from pain, freedom from joint pain, freedom from inflexibility, freedom from a lack of mobility. So that's a pretty common definition of physical health. How does it relate to a definition of mental health? Well, with mental health, we basically have two elements that need to be present in order for us to say that we are mentally healthy. The first we may call intellectual, and it involves the ability to consistently think clearly. So we are not regularly confused. We are not regularly bogged down or muddled with multiple thoughts running through our head at the same time. We are able to focus clearly on single ideas that we call the intellectual. The other side of mental health is, of course, the emotional. Now, please recognize we do not say happy emotions. Okay? Mental health is not a constant state of joy or happiness, but rather a state of balanced emotions. We cannot be happy all the time. And there are good reasons and good times in which negative emotions like sadness or doubt may be very useful. The important part of mental health is that these emotions do not overwhelm us. No matter what state we are in, we feel the ability to regulate our emotions and to return to a place of calm and stillness whenever we choose to. This is mental health. The World Health Organization also has a very clear definition, in which they state that mental health is a state of well-being in which you, the individual, are able to do these four things. You're able to realize your abilities. Okay? Just being aware of your own strengths and weaknesses and what you are able to do. You're able to deal with or approach the normal stresses of life without falling into a negative state or an uncontrolled state. You're able to work productively, whether that's homework or helping your family to take care of your house, or even doing work in your community. You're able to do this productively and on a regular basis. And of course, connected with that, as I just said, you are able to help your community and you feel that you are a part of your community. Now, that community can be a neighborhood. It can be in the form of teams or groups. like those we play on in sports, or perhaps groups associated with a religion or a political idea. This could also be a digital community. We are more connected than ever, and we do have friends and networks of social support online, all of which we are able to contribute to if we are mentally healthy. There is a very simple way right now that you can begin to understand the state of your mental health, and that is by asking this simple question. Are you able to do these 4 things in your life right now? Can you recognize your abilities? Can you deal with the normal daily stresses of life? Can you work productively, and can you help your community? It's worth taking a second to really ask yourself this question and think hard about it right now. How much of this are you able to do? Now, your answer could range from, I can do all of this, it's all very easy, and I'm happy that these are all parts of my life. Your answer may also range to something like, I am only able to do perhaps 1 or 2 of these things, and I would like very much to learn how to do the others. There is no correct answer, and you are certainly not a failure or in some sense wrong if you can't do all of these things right now. Okay? You may be experiencing negative states such as depression or anxiety, both of which are very, very common, especially in the young generation these days. But that is not something to feel guilty over. It is not something that you need to blame yourself for. This current time, the COVID pandemic, has quickly changed what the normal stresses of life are. And every one of us, myself, your teachers, your parents, everyone in your life is struggling to maintain mental health during this time of very fast change. During this time, we must adapt our psychological state, again, both thinking and emotions, to this new setting, including the uncertainty and the isolation that come with it. We must also find ways to adapt and change our setting so that it best supports our mental health. We're going to talk about ways to do both of those things today. Jumping right into that question, what are the best ways that I can keep myself mentally healthy? Of course, in this little image to the right, you can see a few examples or a few symbols of things that are universally good for your mental health. We see indications of things like good health and hygiene, good sleep, a little bit of tea or calm, some good healthy exercise, and of course this symbol, which is recognized as representing mindfulness. There is a very, very well-known and fairly simple model for what you need to maintain your mental health. This model was generated by a popular mid-20th century psychologist named Abraham Maslow, and we now know it as Maslow's hierarchy of needs. These are 5 categories of needs that every person, no matter where they are or who they are, needs in order to stay physically and mentally healthy. Just quickly to go through these 5. Most importantly, most foundationally, right at the bottom of this list of needs, I think we all recognize we have physiological needs. Now that can include very simple things like enough food, water, shelter, and warmth so that our physical self is able to survive. That's a basic need, foundational. Quite close to that, we have safety and security. Now this includes not just safety for your physical self, but also safety and security for your emotional self. Do you feel safe and secure to say what you believe and know that you will not come to harm for it? Are you able to represent yourself safely? Of course, we also need love and belonging. This is the first of our, what we might call metaphysical needs, or even spiritual needs. We need to feel connection with people around us. Getting into the more abstract, the more high level needs, each of us needs sources of self-esteem. Now that source comes both from ourselves personally, having positive self-talk and recognizing our own value. It also comes from outside of ourselves, the recognition of those around us. And this can come in the form of a kind word, perhaps recognition of some achievement in the form of an award or a certificate. Maybe you think of when you graduate high school, that will be a big boost to your self-esteem. But we need to be getting boosts like this every day. And lastly, Abraham Maslow said that every human being needs to feel as though they are able to become the best version of themselves, as though they have access to a life of purpose. So you can tell this is a very well-designed hierarchy with very simple, basic needs at the bottom and very high-level, difficult to achieve needs at the top. But these are things that all of us need to be working towards. People who are mentally healthy share several characteristics. And again, you can ask yourself, how many of these are a part of my life right now? People who are mentally healthy have positive self-esteem. We just mentioned self-esteem. This makes them more able to face challenges confidently and to accept failures when they happen. And of course, failures happen to everybody. They are one of the best ways that we learn. So people with positive self-esteem are able to embrace failure and move forward from it. People who are mentally feel as though they belong, they have healthy attachments to people that they can rely on, such as their family, friends, teachers, and neighbors. They also have a sense of purpose. They feel that they are able to set goals and achieve goals that are authentic to how they feel. They're able to view the world with a positive outlook. Of course, we know that our perspective determines our reality. Any situation can be interpreted positively or negatively. And people who are mentally healthy are able to interpret their lives in a positive way. They see good in the people and situations around them. And lastly, pardon me, just go back to that one for one more second. People who are mentally healthy are autonomous. Big, scary word. It basically just means they have the ability and the confidence to make responsible decisions for themselves. They belong to themselves. They are their own person. That is autonomy. Again, well worth taking a minute to ask yourself, how many of these things are true of me right now? Do you have these things in your life? Now, if you are missing a few of these things, of course, you are not alone. You are probably in the majority. We are all working to secure those good parts of lives for ourselves. So let's figure out what puts those nice parts of our life at risk. What makes it difficult to achieve purpose, belonging, positive outlook, autonomy, and all the other things that make us mentally healthy. There are many forces that can negatively affect our mental health. They're around us all the time, and each one affects us in different ways. It can be very severe, and sometimes it can be almost unnoticeable. We can categorize these two forces. We can break them into two different sides. First, there are many physical forces that put our mental health at risk. You've probably noticed this already in your life. It is very difficult to have a positive outlook. It's very difficult to be a productive worker if you have had poor sleep, or if you have not been eating very well. Both of these radically increase our levels of stress and decrease our ability to socialize, as well as our ability to concentrate and remember. Perhaps you have some excess stress hormones rolling around in your body. This is usually the result of a lack of exercise. One of exercise's primary roles in our life is to decrease stress hormones such as cortisol. Perhaps you have some additional drugs rolling around in your body. We mean drugs in the sense of any supplement that changes your physical chemistry. Caffeine. Many of us enjoy coffee or tea on a regular basis, but if you have too much caffeine in your body on a daily basis, this can cause large levels of stress. We also include amphetamines, even those drugs that are prescribed to help us study better, things like Ritalin or Adderall. These can result in high levels of anxiety in our lives. And lastly, if we are regularly surrounded by chaos, by loud noise, by crowds of people, by nasty smells, on a daily basis, this can really negatively affect our mental health. There are also several mental and emotional negative forces that affect our mental health negatively. The first of these, having to deal with too much complexity, too many complicated problems in our lives. And these problems can come in many forms. Maybe it has to do with finances or money. Maybe it has to do with your academic or educational life. The things you're studying are too complicated. Maybe it has to do with your social networks, with friend networks and relationships becoming too complicated. This can also lead to uncertainty, just a lack of knowing or a lack of ability to move forward confidently. We know right now is a particularly uncertain time for many of us. There are specific mental and emotional stress triggers that can cause us to slip into poor mental health. The news. We so rarely see positive, uplifting news, either on television or on our media feeds. This is because the news is aimed to create outrage and to create fear. Obviously, sometimes it has the effect that is intended. It creates fear and stress in our lives. Health concerns, worrying about your health or the health of your loved ones, as we all have been doing during this COVID period. And isolation. We call isolation the dream killer. Collaboration, being in connection with other people, is the stuff of newness and vibrancy and creativity in our lives. And when we lack that connection, when we don't have a good social network to rely on, we can slip into poor mental health. And lastly, for the young people out there, I really want to highlight social media has been demonstrated beyond any doubt to cause negative damage and risk to our mental health. Social media can cause poor self-image through the presentation of unrealistic forms of life that we are regularly exposed to. It also causes us to feel that we are fear of missing out, that we are missing out on life, or that there are things going on elsewhere that we don't have access to. This makes us feel isolated, which can, of course, trigger all kinds of negative states. Now, to make matters even riskier, even more difficult, these two categories are massively interconnected. Our physical health and our mental health are in some ways the same thing. It is very, very difficult to be physically unhealthy while being mentally healthy. As you can see, there are interconnections everywhere. For example, a chaotic environment can also act as a stress trigger. Okay? Poor nutrition can result in us being uncertain or unable to deal with these forces in our lives. So what can we do to battle against the negative forces around us? Enter mindfulness. Mindfulness is one of our oldest and best tools to build mental health. Learning to be mindful is a lifelong journey. This is not something that you are going to master in a day or in the course of a semester, and you will certainly not be receiving any report cards in relation to it. There are no diplomas in the world of mindfulness. But the steps at the beginning to start a mindful life are very, very easy, and we're going to do that today. Anybody can be mindful anywhere that we want. This is a beautiful tool because it is always accessible to us. It costs nothing, and it is always ready for us to engage. So what is it? What is this mindfulness that we're talking about? A very broad definition. Mindfulness is a way of thinking that focuses your attention on the present moment while calmly accepting your feelings and thoughts. I want to highlight two ideas, the present and acceptance. Think about how much of your time is spent thinking about the past, either in the form of nostalgia, thinking about things that we miss or that we loved, or perhaps in the form of regret, thinking about things that we did not do well or that we regard as mistakes in our lives. How often do you feel nostalgia or regret? And how much of your life do you spend thinking about the future, either in the form of hopes, plans, dreams, projecting yourself into the future, or perhaps in the form of fears and doubts and worries about the future? I think if we were honest with ourselves, we would have to admit that most of us spend a lot of time thinking in the past or in the future, and not enough time being where we are right now and focusing on the current moment with appreciation. Secondly, notice that mindfulness involves no judgment of your feelings and thoughts. It is not an effort to fix yourself. Rather, it is an effort to notice, to recognize yourself, and to understand what exactly you are thinking and feeling right now. A big part of the uncertainty that is a facet of poor mental health comes from the fact that we are not in touch with what we feel and what we think on a minute-by-minute basis. Now, for obvious reasons, especially in the current times, mindfulness has become very popular. It's now an accepted part of many educational, business, athletic, and therapeutic settings, whereas in the past it may have only been expressed in religious settings. Now mindfulness is being studied scientifically and used in all kinds of places. There are many different benefits that have been observed from mindful practice. We can use it to reduce depression, stress, and anxiety. We can also use it to help us with some of our learning skills, such as focus, creativity, and problem solving. Mindfulness has been studied extensively and has been scientifically demonstrated to do all of these things. Many, many benefits. Now, how can we practice mindfulness? Well, fortunately, it does not need to be practiced in any single way. It is up to you to find the mindful practices that work best for your mind and your life. We might attempt to be mindful in any of these ways. I really enjoy being mindful while I run, and we're lucky in today's day and age, there are even cell phone apps that will play guided meditations for runners. So here in Toronto, I try to get out to Lake Ontario as often as possible. I put in one of my mindful podcasts and I run to clear my mind and to become in contact with the present moment. Many people can also do this through reading, which encourages a single, very focused style of thought. You can do mindful walking. You can be mindful while you cook, while you rest, while you're cleaning or playing with a pet. It's very easy to be mindful while listening to some soothing music. Of course, any form of exercising can be mindful, and there are many, many more ways that we can find time and space for clarity of thought and balance of emotions in our day-to-day lives. You might be able to think of a few more that are useful to you right now. A little small tip, when we think about all these different activities that we could be mindful during, whether it's running or playing with a pet or listening to music, most of these activities are even more beneficial to our mental health when we practice them in a natural setting, such as a forest, a park, or near a body of water. So again, you can be thinking right now about what places you have access to in your life, in your neighborhood, in your community, that are natural and where a state of mindful attention can be encouraged. How exactly does mindfulness help us? Firstly, it allows us to step away from the forces in our lives that cause anxiety and depression and to connect with our current state. Right? We looked at those negative forces just a few minutes ago. Mindfulness allows us to put some distance in between us and those forces. It also takes away the automatic thoughts, what psychologists call rumination. These automatic thoughts that we are not in charge of and that roll around in our brain when we are not paying attention, they can lead to long-term anxiety and negative self-image. Mindfulness often involves controlled breathing techniques. These physically reduce the activity of your sympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is the part of your body that is responsible for when things are getting chaotic and scary and everything seems to tense up in your body. You know, when you're nervous or scared and you start to feel a bit sweaty and your heart starts to beat a little bit faster, this is your sympathetic nervous system working. And some people have their sympathetic nervous system working almost all the time without even realizing it. Controlled breathing is an active physical technique to reduce the activity of this system and to reduce the nervous, stressed out feelings that come with it. Mindful practice can be thought of like exercise for the brain, and a consistent practice, just like consistent exercise, can really improve things like your working memory, as well as your ability to focus for longer periods of time. If you were to attend Braemar College, you would be asked to focus during our 2 classes a day. These are long classes in the morning and afternoon, and they demand that you're able to stay on task for a longer period than perhaps you have in the past. Mindfulness is very, very good for practicing this. It also brings awareness to our present state and allows us to notice perhaps parts of our life that we otherwise ignore, and it makes us more grateful for what we have. We so often forget to be thankful for the air that we breathe, the pleasurable sensations of our body and our ability to move, the people in our lives who bring us joy and make us feel safe, even things as simple as the new day and the sun rising. By bringing gratefulness for these things into our lives, we can radically improve our mental health. Very broadly speaking, mindfulness teaches us that we are not our thoughts. Yourself, your I, is not the same thing as what you are currently thinking. And when you gain control of your thoughts, you can gain control of yourself. That is quite a lot of information, and certainly more than we want to be thinking about in the current moment. It will act as a good introduction to mindfulness, and we will continue to develop some of these ideas in the coming weeks. But without going any further with these ideas, we want to give them a try in practice in our real life right now, today, so that we can begin to form our own impressions from our own experience. So for the rest of the session today, we are simply going to practice a guided mindfulness session. The session will take about 10 minutes, and it will include the following steps. Each of these steps will be explained in a little more detail. Firstly, we're going to set our intention. I'll come back to that in just a second. We're going to do what's called a body scan, followed by a few minutes of square breathing. And in the final minute or two of our session, we will try to practice exactly what I just mentioned, a bit of gratefulness, identifying things in our lives that we sometimes take for granted or ignore, bringing them to our attention and being thankful for them. So right now, for these next 10 or so minutes, we would ask that you simply find yourself in a comfortable position, in a space that is free from noise and distraction. Now you see in this image on the left side of the screen that we have a number of young people sitting in what is called the Lotus Pose. This is a very common pose to physically encourage a state of intention. Notice that each of them has their back and their head perfectly straight. They're not slouching down. Notice that none of them are laying down on a couch. But of course, as I said, you can be mindful in any position. So today, we recommend simply sitting on a chair or sitting in a physical position that is familiar to you. Now, when we set intention, what we really mean is to think as clearly as possible about why you want to be mindful. As I've already intimated, there are many different reasons to be mindful. Perhaps you want to actively reduce stress in your life. Or perhaps you'd like to gain one of those learning skills like focus or improved memory. Maybe you want to become more grateful for the things that you have. Maybe you simply want to recognize what it feels like to be mindful. Whatever your reason, I want you to hold that idea in your mind as clearly as possible, the answer to why you want to be mindful as we enter into this session. Now, as I said, we're going to set that intention, followed by a body scan and square breathing. Now, what are those? You can see on the image in this slide, this is basically what a body scan is. If you imagine that that little box moving up and down on our character's body is your attention. So you can see, to scan means to bring your attention to something, place your attention on something. We want to bring your attention to your body and slowly scan down from head to toe, observing anything in your body that is tight or perhaps uncomfortable. Now, we are not judging these things, and we certainly don't want to do anything to change when we find them. We just want to notice it. After you've noticed those unpleasant feelings, we want to scan again, and this time we will notice what parts of the body feel relaxed or strong. Again, there is no judgment in this practice from me or from you. We don't say, for example, oh, my back is sore, so right now I should do something about it. No, we simply notice, recognize our current state, and return to a state of simple, unjudging mindfulness. Following our body scan, we'll spend a few minutes doing square breathing. This is a very common mindful breath technique. And this is one of those techniques that can reduce the activity of that sympathetic nervous system. Very simple. You can see basically how it works on this illustration. We are going to breathe in for 4 seconds. We're then going to hold that breath for 4 seconds. Exhale for 4 seconds and then hold that exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can feel already you will get into a rhythm, breathing out and breathing in. And we want to spend all of this time focused only on the breath. What does it feel like as it enters your body and fills you up from your lungs all the way down to your stomach? What does it feel as we push that old air out of our bodies using our abdominal muscles and feeling ourselves empty and pure before breathing in again? We'll do that for a few minutes. So let's just jump in and give it a try. Again, we're going to do this for about 10 minutes. Please get comfortable, and in this moment, set your intention. Why are you here? Why do you want to practice mindfulness? We want to hold that intention in our minds as we, if you're comfortable, find yourself seated. You can begin by closing your eyes, simply thinking about why you want to be mindful. Please simply listen for instructions to follow. And in this moment, notice that there is nothing else going on in your life, nothing to worry about or to plan, nothing to do. We simply want to be here in the presence of our own being in the world around us. When you are ready, turn your attention to your body, starting with the very top of your head. Slowly scan your attention down, asking yourself, how do I feel? How does my head feel resting atop my neck? How are my neck muscles and my shoulder muscles? Are they a bit tight? What about my arms? Moving slowly down the spine into all the organs of your being. Imagine your heart. Imagine your lungs pumping that air. Imagine your stomach, your internal organs doing all the work that keeps you alive. Scan your attention through your hips. Those hips that can be so tight, that carry so much of our weight. Now down through your legs, all the way into your feet. Without judgment, simply asking, how do I feel right now? When you finish that first scan, you simply want to return to the top of the head, place your attention there again, and do one more full scan, this time completely on your own. And instead of looking for discomfort and pain, we want to look to parts of our body that we are grateful for. Where do you feel strong? Where do you feel flexible? Where are you at ease? We scan from the head down to our toes, asking these questions of our body. Where do we find pleasure? There's so much in our bodies that we can be thankful for in any moment, so much that we regularly ignore. The sensations that we get from our fingertips, the softness of our skin, the clarity of our vision, the strength of our muscles, the stability of our bones. All of these things can be sensed and felt clearly in any moment of your life. You can be thankful for your hairstyle, for the softness of your skin. You can be thankful for your shoulders and their ability to carry what you need, or your feet and their ability to hold you on the earth. These are good feelings. We need to recognize our bodies on a minute-by-minute basis. And this is something you can do in even just a few seconds of spare time, anytime during your day. We want to move now into the breath work phase of this mindful session. We're going to begin practicing that square breathing technique. I want everyone with me to take a big, deep breath all the way through your nose and hold it in your stomach. Feel that oxygen fill your entire body, holding that in your stomach for just another second. And then when you're ready, we want to breathe all of that old air out of our mouths, and then hold our body empty for just a second. When you're ready, another deep breath in through the nose. Hold that breath and feel it strong inside your stomach. When you're ready, breathe out fully through the mouth. Hold that exhalation for just another second. We're going to start the rhythmic breathing now, in through the nose. And hold, 2, 3, 4. And exhale. And hold, 2, 3, 4. In through the nose. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Out through the mouth. Hold, 2, 3, 4. In. Hold. Out. Hold. In. Out. You can continue to follow the rhythm on your own. Out. We'll continue this square breathing practice for another minute and a half. Please train all of your attention simply on the breath as it enters your body, stays in your body, leaves your body, and as your body stays empty. Notice how cool and refreshing the air is as it enters your nose and travels down your diaphragm. Notice how warm it is as that stale old air leaves your body, opening the space for more new air to come. This practice is an exercise that trains our focus and attention on a single stimulus. You don't need anything more than this right now. Only attention on the breath and a recognition of how we feel as we breathe. In for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, out for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds. The rhythm of our lives. Breath in, breath out, sun up, sun down, in and out. Life can be so simple. And again, there is no judgment in this practice. If your attention strays, if suddenly you recognize that you've begun thinking about something else, maybe planning your day, worrying about one of the tasks you need to do, maybe dwelling on a happy memory, all you need to do is notice that your mind has strayed and return your attention to that breath. In for 4 seconds. Hold for 4 seconds. Out for 4 seconds. Hold for 4 seconds. Let's go through one more cycle together. This is something that, again, we can do at any time in our lives, at any time during the day. Simply stop, turn the attention to the breath, recognize how we feel as this most simple dynamic takes place and gives us the lives that we are so grateful for. In this last minute of our mindful session, we turn our thoughts to gratefulness. There's so much in our lives that we take for granted. We do not recognize its value consciously on a daily basis. It could be the air that we breathe, the bodies that we move in, the days that we have. It could be our physical setting, our health, our families, our friends, our ability to study, our schools, our teachers, our countries, nature, anything. In this last minute, we turn our attention to these powerful and positive forces in our lives, and we bring thanks to them that they are here with us, giving us our lives every day. Spend this minute with your thoughts filled with gratefulness for whatever you are thankful for. We've now reached the end of our first mindful session together. I am so thankful for your presence here with me today. the end of a mindful session, you may sometimes hear a guide say the word namaste, which I understand to mean that the best parts of me witness and recognize the best parts of you and are thankful for their presence here together right now. So I say namaste. In your own time, you're welcome to open your eyes, move your neck and your shoulders and your fingers and your toes around and feel those sensations in your body again. If you feel a sense of relaxation or relief, as I do right now, simply notice that and be thankful for it and use it as motivation to return to a mindful practice like this anytime that you want. We will be practicing again together this coming week on February the 14th. For now, we simply want to remind you that you can be mindful in all kinds of activities and settings this coming week. Maybe it's your exercise, or maybe while you're cooking or reading. And even 5 minutes of breath exercises like what we did today can have long-term benefits for your physical and mental health. If you enjoyed this session, please join me again next Monday at the same time, where we're going to extend our thinking and practice with an activity called fear setting. Whether or not you can join us next week, please feel free to visit our Mindful Braemar folder, linked here in this presentation. And there you can access all of the presentations, as well as a number of helpful resources from this series. Those presentations will also be present in translated forms in multiple languages. So if you found this presentation at all difficult to understand, or perhaps I've used language that is too difficult or spoken at a speed that is too fast, not to worry. You can access a translation of this presentation in your language by simply going to the Mindful Braemar folder. And lastly, we would encourage you that if you felt way more anxious the past 6 months, if you've really noticed problems with your mental well-being, please consider taking the self-assessment that's found linked here at psychologytoday.com and simply follow the instructions that are provided there to understand what is happening inside your mind and your body a little bit better. Again, I thank you all for your presence here. I won't take any more of your day. Please enter this day with a sense of peace and well-being, and we look forward to seeing you again this coming Monday. All the best.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you very much for your session today. So where can we find the link to the Google Drive? You will drop the link here.
If I heard you correctly, Lynn, the link to that Mindful Braemar Google Drive will be sent out to all participants by email shortly.
Sure. Okay, thank you very much. Have a nice day.